Discarded Beasts, File 7, Will. It wasn't long after that when they began to act out the plan. First, Mark would use his wound to shrink the inn's door and give it to Lilin. Then, Lilin would travel from the town of Palmyra to the city of Jove, hometown of another flesh machine named Washam. A journey of that length would surely take a few days at most, and so, with aching legs and a face still leaking blood, the Red Witch swiftly fell asleep in an attempt to rest up. And yet, before her dreams could even begin to take over, Lilin had returned. Blinking the sleep out of her eyes, she rushed on to the next step as the world felt like it moved faster than ever. So be it then, she would simply keep up. Upon arriving at Jove, Kalita would take her unwashed clothes to the place she was most likely to find the flesh machine, Washam's store. Just across the street from said store, Lilin would be throwing pellets into the water below, while the shrunken door would sit on the wall of the bridge. Just before entering the shop, the Red Witch gave one last look towards Lilin. She looked happy. The thought would need to wait, though, just as Kalita would need to wait in line to have her clothes washed by who else? Washam. Then it was finally time for the real meat of the plan. Upon receiving her clothes, Kalita prepared to become irate, screaming and scaring off all the customers in the area before preparing her method of attack. Within the tip of her boot would be a nail, and once in line, she would impale her foot with it before letting the blood pool up in her shoe. Upon the area being devoid of anyone else aside from her and Washam, she attacked, turning the blood in her shoe to a spike of ice that would impale Washam after a single lethal kick to the skull, instantly killing it like a fisherman piercing the brain of a fish. Afterwards, Kalita would flee the scene and pretend to be confronted by Lilin outside. The two would take a brief fight until Kalita was able to be pushed off the bridge and into the water of hungry fish below, where she would presumably be eaten. However, before her form made impact with the water, the Red Witch would make sure to snatch up Mark's door and give a quick knocking signal. Following this, Mark should have quickly expanded the door and let Kalita in before closing said door and shrinking it once more, letting it disappear into the depths of the water to be collected later by Lilin, who would be able to report to QK about the death of Zeemless, the flesh machine Kalita first killed, and Washam, the one she just killed, allowing Kalita to be legally considered dead. However, before Kalita could impact either the door or the water, she was met by the impact of something unexpected. A Titanic boat had been passing underneath the bridge as Kalita fell. She hit the roof of what appeared to be a covered tent, crashing through the roof and falling into a basket of various fruits. Kalita tried to right herself, but before she could, the basket began being moved. Not wanting to draw attention to herself, she sat hidden among the fruit until the light of the sun was blocked by something. Now, normally, apples would have smelled sweet or fruity, but it was the lack of any of these scents that forced the Red Witch to cover her nose and mouth with her hat. The intense aroma of rotting fruit had completely overtaken her senses. With the small amount of light she had, she could see that despite most of the fruit being fresh, a few bad apples had spoiled the entire barrel. After being rolled for a good minute or so, she felt the barrel cease its movements before whatever rolled in walked out. As she waited to make sure they had gone, Kalita could only focus on the sound of footsteps and that awful scent. She spent a few moments more in the barrel before deciding to slowly try and poke her head out the top, while her hands clutched her hat to her mouth. She looked towards the door she came from, looked to her right and saw nothing, then looked to her left and saw what appeared to be a large green support beam of some kind. It was positioned against the wall with some small spikes sticking out of it, stretching from the corner of the room to directly above her barrel. Though, upon her vision adjusting to the darkness, she quickly realized that no, that was a worm. There was a giant worm with massive yellow tusks and 100 legs looking directly at her with a single titanic eye. Kalita looked at the worm in shock as the worm looked back at her. Hours seemed to pass, and the few seconds the two remained locked eye to eyes. Kalita noticed that the creature had slowly tilted its head as it looked upon her, its pupils slightly shifting as it observed her features. The staring contest remained intact until both Kalita and the worm were distracted by the sound of an opening door. A pinkish creature with a white shirt and red athletic shorts entered and began loudly making popping noises. The worm made a similar noise as it looked toward the creature before wiggling its front leg towards Kalita. The creature made another popping noise before looking directly at Kalita, its piercing black eyes staring menacingly at her as it approached. Kalita became more and more worried until it reached her barrel, peered down to her, and to her surprise, said hello. "Hello, what are you doing, little witch?" The creature spoke with a soft tone that took Kalita by surprise. "I'm so sorry for the intrusion. I fell into your fruit basket after I fell off a bridge and onto this boat." Kalita tried her best to sound as innocent as possible. "I see. Are you stuck within? I can assist your exit should it be needed." The creature extended an arm that was quickly grabbed by Kalita. "Thank you. It means a lot. What is your name?" Kalita sheepishly asks as the creature helps her out. "My name is Valentine," she answers. "You have come aboard at a bad time. The show will begin shortly." Valentine attempted to lead Cleta to the only exit she can use. However, the darkness had turned her vision from normal to non-existent, causing her to trip and fall on some sort of rope, dropping her hat, Mark's door, and herself onto the circus floor. Outside the boat, the sound of a crowd could be heard echoing throughout it, and in the rush not to mess up the performance that would soon be taking place, Valentine picked up Cleta and carried her towards the exit. As they left, Cleta watched as the worm moved to the center of the room. Once Valentine opened the door, the light of the sun shined onto the two, revealing Valentine to be mostly human-looking, with a frog hat upon her head instead of being a freaky slug creature with slug-like eye stalks. "Please wait here until the show is over," Valentine quickly states before rushing back inside the ship. Cleta seemed to be near where she initially fell. Looking around, she could see that she had fallen on what was now the back of the ship, with only a table, chair, and a balcony to keep her company. Once again, she was alone. With nothing else to do at the moment, she decided to do as Valentine asked and wait until the show had finished. She took off her cloak, draped it over her upper torso as if it were a blanket, and drifted to sleep on the single chair. She dreamed of many things while she sat: the moon, the beach, the inn, but a specific dream felt more real than the others within her mind. It was a dream of what was happening outside the ship, which she saw as if she had a bird's-eye view. She dreamed of a large crowd which had gathered to watch the surprise circus performance. It was rare for a change in the city's schedule to occur, but the special event was allowed due to the outside circumstances. At hard times such as these, any moment of ease was not taken for granted. Among the crowd was alone Lilin, who was watching for any signs of Cleta. She knew the most likely outcome was that Cleta would be killed by the savage beast that housed itself within the boat, but a part of her wanted to hope the doors would swing open to reveal Cleta standing over Undermine's corpse. As the sun turned orange from the soon-to-be-faded sun, Lilin realized she had not eaten since breakfast and was in fact quite hungry. She thought about purchasing some food, but knew that the long ongoing drought would send the prices shooting towards heaven. Reaching into her pocket, she pulled out a bag of salt and a raw onion. After sprinkling the salt onto said onion, she took a large bite before repeating the process until the onion was gone. With a bit of time remaining before the show could begin, Lilin felt thirst strike at her throat from the previously mentioned salted onion. Looking to the sky, she saw what appeared to be a small rain cloud a few miles away. "Ladon, could you help me get some water?" she asked while looking at the cloud. After a moment of silence, Lilin heard Ladon respond, "Cloud," before she could feel the slight breeze become a powerful blast of air that shot towards said cloud. After only a few moments of waiting, Lilin heard Ladon say, "Checkmark," and upon looking up, Lilin saw a minuscule rain cloud above her. Looking up, she opened her mouth as the rain sprinkled onto her tongue. It served its purpose of providing hydration to her dehydrated body, but in truth it was without a doubt a terrible-tasting beverage. Though considering her other options consisted of pond water, lake water, her own spit, or filter feeding, she did not exactly have a rough choice to make. If Lilin had to choose between rainwater and various bacteria, she would rather drink straight from Scotch's mist. Once the rain cloud had been sucked dry, Ladon blew it away before Lilin's attention returned to the show. From an area above the boat's platform was a second platform, and on that second platform stood Mr. Yace. "Ah, a most wonderful evening to you all! Welcome to our specialty circus show. You all had best be grateful for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity brought on by me, the amazing Undermine, and—" Lilin stopped paying attention as she rolled one of her eyes. He was making a lot of the comments one would expect a ringmaster to make for an opening performance, and while the crowd was incredibly amused, Lilin had seen it enough to recite the opening speech word by word if she wanted to. Obviously, she never would, though. This whole circus business was just a waste of time in her mind. She did like the colors of the tent, though. As Mr. Yace finished the opening speech, the door to the circus finally opened, catching Lilin and the crowd's attention for differing reasons. As Undermine made its opening show of diving into the lake before shooting out and spraying water onto the crowd, Lilin's heart began to sink. It wasn't because some of the water splashed into her eye, nor was it because she saw a third flush machine sitting within the boat, but it was instead the red pointed hat sitting at the back of the room. With her worst fears seemingly realized, Lilin stood up, took a breath in, and placed her hand on her blade. If Cleta had truly perished, she would make sure it would not be in vain. She wouldn't let that happen ever again.